But instead of asking the question, I'll have Jeannie in Baltimore, Maryland ask it. Jeannie, you're on the air. Go ahead, please.
Oh, thanks so much. Listen, I am someone who watches, like everybody else, watches what's going on in Washington, D.C., the kind of cynical, fear-mongering, consensus-breaking instead of consensus-building atmosphere in the House and the Senate. And as a citizen of Maryland, I watched Delegate Mizeur's campaign. And from what I could see, it was with very little money, terrible name recognition. I mean, I heard her name pronounced all kinds of terrible ways. But it was such a dynamic, and it was an open campaign. It was so inclusive, and it felt to me really transformative, wholehearted.
You're taking too long to ask my question.
Oh, well, are you going to run for Senate? Because we need, we can't just accept leaders who, are cynical. Like, we need leaders who will inspire us to want better leaders. And I'm just wondering if Delegate Mizeur will step into the race.
There you go.
Thank you, Jeannie, for that question and for your passion for community change. I'm listening to voters and citizen activists like you all across the state who have reached out with really beautiful sharing of your heart about what this race means to you, about what Barbara Mikulski's legacy means to you, about what it would mean to step in and continue to fight for Maryland's best interest in her tradition and honor. And it's a heavy responsibility to consider that. I've not taken it lightly. And but I've also, in that discernment process, sat in a place of wisdom from what I've learned after my campaign for governor. And after that campaign, I was facing, for the first time in my life, a period of unknowing. I always knew what I was doing, what I was going to be, what I was involved in, this mission to serve and to be involved in elected office in the way that I had manifested. And all of a sudden, for the first time in my life, I was facing this unknown. I didn't know what I was going to do next. And I think what comes to us as human beings in those moments is often an ego approach to sort of panicking and like, oh, I have to fill that space and that energy and that need. And what the beautiful teaching that I've received has been is to sit back in a place of unknowing where your deepest wisdom is allowed to come forward. Becoming familiar and intimate with what we don't know instead of what we do know is a way to allow answers to emerge. And so I've listened with interest the encouragement from voters across the state, and I take it as a really sound stamp of approval for the kind of campaign that I ran for governor, one that was about the issues, that was 100% positive and didn't attack anyone, that was publicly financed and rejected corporate contributions, that was about a very strong progressive vision for what we accomplish for Maryland and for the country. And I appreciate that. And then I sit back and I also recognize that this is a big decision for me and my family, that spending the last 2 years engaged in a statewide race was a beautiful journey, and it also was incredibly taxing. And I'm not entirely sure that I'm ready to step in and do that again. My wife and I are weighing that very heavily. And I'm also weighing the role of a federal legislator versus a state executive. I know I was ready to walk in and be the next governor of Maryland. I know that I have the skills and talent, having been John Kerry's domestic policy director for 4 years and spending a decade as a staff member at the highest levels in Congress, that I know I can step in and do that job as well. I'm just not certain yet that it's the right call for me.
Tom sure would tell.